The Forrest family watched television for a total of 9 and 1/3 hours during a 1-week period. What is the average number of hours per day that the Forrest family watched television? All right, so let's go ahead and circle. I apologize, that is all squishy. So some people may not have seen that 9, so hopefully you saw it. And we have a 1 over here, and there we go. Okay, so now what is that 9 and 1/3? That's hours during a 1-week period of time. So 1 week equals 7 days. Okay, so we need to know what is the average of hours per day. So we need to know, what does that come out to be per day? So what's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and make our little chart so we can organize our information and make sure we're solving this correctly. So if you're doing test corrections, please make sure you're drawing this chart on your paper. You're also labeling your boxes. This is what we know. This is what we need to know. And this is our plan, what we're doing, and this is the solution. Okay, so what we need to know, that's the one I always like to do first, is our end goal is the average number of hours per day. This right here tells me that I'm looking for a unit rate. I'm looking for how much is it each day. So I'm looking for my unit rate. If I had my unit rate and I already knew what it was per day and I needed to know for 7 days, we know that Miss Young's favorite 3-letter word is per because it knows she's going to multiply. But if I'm looking for that per, I'm going to do the opposite of multiplication. And the opposite is division. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we're dividing. I know that I have 9 and 1/3 for the week. And again, I know that there are 7 days in a week. So now I'm going to take my 9 and 1/3 and I'm going to change it. That's a mixed number. I'm going to change it into an improper fraction. I'm going to leave it a fraction. I'm not going to go into a decimal or anything because look at my answers. My answers are all in fraction form. So I'm going to keep my work in fraction form. So in order to do that, I take my 3 and multiply 9, and then I add my 1 to get a numerator, a different numerator on top. So 3 times 9 is 27, plus 1 is 28. And I leave my denominator the same. So now this is what I'm going to use. All right, so I know that I'm going to divide because I'm looking for my unit rate. So I have 28 over 3 divided by 7. Okay, so if you look on my wall up on top, if you're sitting in your desk, you look to the right and you look up, we have what's called invisible math. And that means one of the rules up there is if I have a whole number, I can put it over 1 to turn it into a fraction. And it still contains the same quantity. It still means the same thing. It didn't change the meaning of that number. It's still, because if I divide 1 into 7, it goes 7 times, so I still have a whole number 7. All right, so the other thing that I need to do is I need to remember that I cannot divide fractions. So I need to keep this, I need to change this, and then I'm going to get the reciprocal or flip, this number. That's a P. So now it's going to look like this. I'm going to keep the 28 over 3. I'm going to change my division to multiplication because I cannot divide fractions, but I can multiply them. And then I get the reciprocal of 7 over 1, or I flip it to 1 over 7. All right, so now I have a rule. First of all, the first rule is I cannot divide fractions. So I have to multiply them through this process. The next rule is I can cross, I say reduce, or you can cross simplify. And what that means is I am going to look at numbers that are diagonal from each other, like 1 and 3. I can't reduce 1 and 3 because 1 can't be reduced any more than it already is. But I can reduce 28 and 7. How do I know that? Because I know 7 can go into 7 one time, and 7 can go into 28 4 times. So let's go ahead. So 7 can go into there 1. 7 can go into there 4. I just now reduced that. So what this looks like now, when I rewrite it over here, is 4 over 3 times 1 over 1. So now that's a lot easier than 28 times 1 and 3 times 7. So this is going to equal that. That's where we cross reduce or cross simplify. So 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. I cannot leave it like that because none of my answers are that way. I need to go ahead and simplify this. And I'm going to read it going from top to bottom. And as I read it, I'm going to write it. 4, and this means divided by 3. Okay, so how many times can 3 go into 4? 1, 3, minus 4 is 1. Now, because all of my answers are fractions, I'm not going to put a decimal and keep going. I'm just going to do remainder 1. Now I've got to set it up. This whole number right here is my big number. This little number here is my numerator. This number here is my denominator. And this right here is my answer. My answer to my unit rate, or to what is the average of hours per day. It's 1 hour, or 1 1/3 hours. And that would be my answer to this question here. Make sure that when you do test corrections, you have all of the information that I have. If I go too fast, you can always stop and pause the video to catch up. You can always go ahead and rewatch it again, but just make sure you have everything for the test corrections, including the rules down here as well.